Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and today we are talking about what appears to be the leaked holiday title from Nintendo, and it's looking like it's the next installment in the Legend of Zelda series. And Zelda being my personal favorite series, this actually has me very excited about what could be happening here. So we have some codename information that's coming from what appears to be the best leaker of all time in Midori, and some other extra little details that we can extrapolate that I think are coming together here to paint a very interesting and exciting picture for the next big Zelda game this year. And so I'm excited to get into it today. But before we go forward, let me ask that if you do enjoy my content, to please subscribe and hit that notification bell. So before diving into the new Zelda info, I first want to speak on some interesting considerations regarding Midori. Earlier in this week, we talked a little bit about how they've been putting out a lot of information lately regarding different games in the industry from different companies, and it seems that a lot of this has to do with the fact that we are in this summertime where there's a lot of video game information coming out, but they've also been sharing out a lot of codename information on Nintendo projects that aren't necessarily about to be shown off, but some may in the upcoming June Direct. Others seem to be related to Switch 2, and we'll get more information on that hopefully later this year, if not early next year. But even outside of Midori's postings, there have been leaks going around. And so Tom Henderson, the owner of Insider Gaming, posted this. From what I can gather, YouTube has investigated employees breaching their contractual agreements on 2 different occasions in the past 18 months due to employees accessing content on the back end. Following today and presumably Summer Games Fest, we'll see a 3rd investigation fairly soon. So with this post, even though Midori's had a very good record and other leakers have had pretty good records, some have gone concerned that maybe the reason why they've had good records is because of this YouTube backend. And Midori responds by saying, "It is interesting, but this won't change my information, because I do not have access to the YouTube backend, and I don't get information from the YouTube backend." And Tom Henderson responds, "I know you don't." So Tom Henderson, a reputable journalist in the industry, is in some ways here vouching for Midori, and there doesn't seem to be any doubt that Midori is going to lose access to their info. However, there has been some conversation that another prominent leaker in the Nintendo space could be losing access to their info, and that's Pyoro. Now when you go to Pyoro's Twitter, their pinned tweet says this: "Okay, no more jokes. Everybody Want to Switch was not announced in a YouTube video. They wouldn't be stupid enough to upload trailers days before it goes public either. Nobody has access to the YouTube back end." So here Pyoro's saying that they don't have access to the YouTube back end, and so if there were to be some sort of investigation on this, they wouldn't be caught and they'd still be providing info when it comes to Nintendo leaks. Now typically Pyoro only provides leaks on things that are about to be announced. So when we get that Nintendo Direct, we would assume Pyoro would provide some information a few days beforehand, as they've been doing over the last couple years or so. So I'm assuming nothing's going to change here. However, I will note, Pyoro says nobody has access to the YouTube backend, but according to this investigation that Tom Henderson was speaking on, some people do. So it's just something that I think is interesting when it comes to this whole leaking space here, but there have been some reliable leakers as of late, and Pyoro's one of them, and Midori is another. And it doesn't look like Midori will be stopping anytime soon, because they continue to speak on really interesting details regarding future announcements, including what appears to be a Zelda game for this year. So, Midori yesterday posted this: "There is a project at Nintendo with the codename Edward. This might be related to the rumors of a new Zelda series title." And so Toast responds to this and asks, how does the name Edward imply Zelda? Have there been similar codenames in the past? And Midori responds, Richard was the codename for Link's Awakening remake on Switch. And so there's even more that was said here, but what can we extrapolate from just these pieces alone? Well, firstly, from what we've understood, Richard was the codename for Link's Awakening remake on Switch. And you might be wondering, how are Edward and Richard related? They're just 2 random names. Well, they might not be as random as you think. Edward and Richard are common names in royalty. There's actually this mystery from many years ago known as the Princess in the Tower, where Edward and his younger brother Richard, princes at the ages of 12 and 9, were placed in this tower shortly after the death of their father because they were being prepared for perhaps the coronation of Edward. However, that never happened. They disappeared. The speculation is that they were murdered because, well, royalty politics. But the basic point here is that Edward and Richard are connected. They are princes, they are brothers, they are royalty, and they are common names used for royalty throughout history. And when taking a look at the different codenames for Zelda games, you'll notice something. Ocarina of Time 3D, Queen, Skyward Sword, King, A Link Between Worlds, Jack, Majora's Mask 3D, Joker, Triforce Heroes, Alice, Twilight Princess HD, had King in there, Breath of the Wild was You King, Tears of the Kingdom, X-King. King is a very common name used for big Zelda games that are new, but even just royal names in general, like Joker, Jack, Queen, those are obvious. But with this understanding in mind, what does the codename Edward hint at all about this next Zelda game? Well, given that Richard is a remake of Link's Awakening, many people are jumping to the conclusion that this is going to be another 2D Zelda remake. And maybe that's the case, but I think it should also be noted that Alice, another name used throughout royalty like Princess Alice, was the codename for Triforce Heroes, a Zelda spin-off. Still considered part of the Zelda canon, it's in the timeline, but it's not the traditional style of Zelda gameplay, and it's not a remake. So I wouldn't jump to the conclusion 100% that Edward is going to be another Zelda remake. It could be, especially because I would say Edward is more related to Richard than it is to Alice. But something that we haven't quite spoken on yet, though, is that Midori also mentioned that this might be related to the rumors of a new Zelda series title. What rumors? Because Midori has spoken on the You King O project, that's something she talked about a little while ago, but this would be related to a remaster of Breath of the Wild for Switch 2. And that does not appear to be the rumors that she's speaking on. She's not referring to her own posts as rumors. Well, there is this popular rumor going around from Papa Genos. So Papa Genos, a while back, earlier this month, put out this image. Well, this is just an image from the art book that's coming out later this year for Tears of the Kingdom, but it shows Zelda in various ways, and he took this moment to speak on something where he was talking about basically that he would like to see a Zelda game where Princess Zelda takes on a role, that now's the time. However, he capitalized a whole bunch of letters, and this was a hidden message for this is a hint. And later he spoke on it in a podcast, and basically, yeah, he said that it's a hint for a Zelda game of some kind. He may predict it in a Nintendo Direct predictions video, and that it has to do with Princess Zelda having a significant role, if not the starring role. But he also clarified that what he heard does not have to do with this Breath of the Wild remaster for Switch 2, nor does it have anything directly related to do with the art he shared. He just wanted to show something about Zelda. And so this has been the Zelda rumor. Nothing else comes to mind beyond Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD, and that's not what Midori was speaking on. And so this is what I think she's referring to here. But interestingly, we got another little update from Papa Genos about this rumor because of what Midori said. So Stealth on Twitter was speaking on this news of this Edward codename, and Papa Genos responded and said this: "I think you'll be happy, but don't hold your breath for it to be an Oracle of Ages Seasons remake. Winky face." So, basically, Stealth was hoping that it would be an Oracle of Ages and Seasons remake because Richard is a codename for Link's Awakening remake, and they were kind of thinking, well, maybe this is another Zelda remake. And it could be another 2D Zelda remake. But Papa Genos here is saying that it's not an Oracle of Ages and Seasons remake, but something else. Now, I stopped to wonder if they're somehow providing an even more stealthy hint here, because they say to hold your breath. But there's no weird capitalizations this time. I'm not sure if there's any other special hidden message here. It's hard to say. But based off the codenaming pattern, Edward, Richard, Alice, these names in royalty outside of like the kings, the queens, and things like that seem to be more hinting at 2D Zelda games. And so I think what we're getting here is a 2D Zelda game. I'm still not sure if it's a remake or not. I'm leaning in it not being a remake, but if it somehow is, it's definitely not for Oracle of Ages and Seasons. And whatever this Zelda entry is, Princess Zelda is going to be playing a significant role, at least according to the rumor from Papa Genos, that is hard implying like actual gameplay. So I don't know, maybe somehow this is a remake for the Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks, or maybe this is another remake where Princess Zelda has a more playable role in its new content, or it's just straight up a new 2D Zelda game, which I've been thinking has been making sense for quite some time. I've been split between the whole Wind Waker Twilight Princess HD rumor and a new 2D Zelda. I've argued that if Nintendo wants to have a compelling year where they're going to be able to sell 13.5 million systems, may put out another special edition OLED that can sell a few million or so to help them bolster that number and also have strong software sales, they're going to need a major new release. And 2D Zelda would be the best fit because similar to Mario Wonder, 2D Mario, one of the reasons why we predicted a 2D Mario for last year, is because it's the kind of game they can put out and people won't think, man, I really wish they saved this for Switch too. No, a 2D Zelda now for Switch, he'll be very happy with. It's the perfect kind of game that will get people very excited, but also not thinking, man, I really wish they waited to release this on Switch too. And so I think it's ideal. And this is going to be a significant Zelda release for this year that either may be a new game or may have some level of new content in there. And to me, this is a bigger deal than Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD. Those would be big deals, but these are games that have been out for many, many years on the Nintendo GameCube. They were already remastered for the Nintendo Wii U. I understand they've been rumored for such a long time. We've been hoping they would come at some point or another. And maybe somehow Nintendo will simply save them for the later years of Switch or what have you, to just put something out there on Switch once Switch 2 is already available. But when these would come, I don't think they would be anything more than what they were on Wii U, just adapted for Switch. A new Zelda experience is more exciting to me, and that's what these rumors and leaks are suggesting. So it's a much bigger deal in my opinion. However, I will bring something up here. This person, Zumbi, responded to this whole Edward codename thing and brought up the Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess Remastered. And Midori said, I do not know why Nintendo is not releasing it yet. And so here, Midori is speaking out saying they don't know why it's coming, implying that they don't think it seems to be coming soon, like imminently, and that it has nothing to do with this codename Edward thing, and that also, that it does exist. For those that doubt its existence, Midori here, in the way that they're speaking, it is implied that they've known of it, it just hasn't happened yet. Or they at least believe it to be something that hasn't been released. Really, I just think this is a case of Nintendo holding back content. They've been holding back all kinds of content for a while now during the Switch era. And I think they're just releasing things when they think it makes the most sense. And right now, what makes the most sense for Nintendo's holiday is a new 2D Zelda game. That's going to give them the biggest push if they don't have like a new 3D Mario or a Mario Kart or an Animal Crossing or a Pokemon game to push it. 2D Zelda is going to do the trick this late into the Switch generation. Now, something I want to speak on here, though, is that while it may not be a remake, it could still be, but obviously there's a few different possibilities here, it also might not be just like another new 2D Zelda game, kind of like A Link Between Worlds or A Link to the Past or Link's Awakening. It might be something more like Triforce Heroes or its own thing. Because as we brought up, Papa Genos is alluding to there being a Zelda game where Princess Zelda is taking on a starring role, which would not be a traditional Zelda game. But it still might be a very exciting one. It kind of depends on what they do here. And I've been operating under the assumption for this video that it's a 2D Zelda game based off the codename comparisons, but is it possible that maybe it's not a 2D Zelda? Is it somehow related to a follow-up to Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, where it's a venture focusing on Princess Zelda from that era? That would be quite the curveball based off everything we've discussed here, but you know what? That would also do really well, and it probably would be really cool. I'll also mention that if this game is somehow related to Sheik, that would be pretty amazing too. But what do you think? What do you make of this news regarding this potential Zelda game? Do you think it's happening? And if so, what kind of Zelda game do you think it is? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.